What they're looking for is an attorney that can represent them. They're in a small town, and it sounds a little incestuous, this town. No, I don't mean to speak ill of this town. I don't know anything about it, but we all know how small towns are and can be, and once people make their mind up about a person, it's hard to reverse that. I found very early on the great joy, which in some ways was so hard, and I didn't like it, moving away from my family in my own hometown. You become that, whatever people have known you as. You know, to my sisters, I was their stinky little brother, and you know, you just grow up and people have this image of you. By going away, you can start fresh. And so I don't know Amy's story in this small little town and what they thought of Amy, but I know what the state worker thought when they went in and they found no abuse and no neglect. So we need somebody. And would Kelly Shackelford, would this be something, he's what is the Liberty Council? I mean, he does more religious freedom, but he might know somebody that could take on a case like this.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear. I mean, because there's a lot to this story, but if you back out for a second, and I don't mean to get scientific, but it's like, this is just completely bonkers. Like, this woman, you expected to hear something completely different from that interview. At least I did.
We never...
And I know it's totally judging a book by its cover, but...
We had never talked to her before.
No.
Our phone screeners had never talked to her. Our producer had not talked to her. Talked to the mentor or the state advocate who was her state advocate until the state fired her. Talked to her, but we didn't... I mean, I did not expect that conversation.
It's similar to the Charlie Gard thing in a way that, you know, there is a line you can find with a story like this, where if they are so disabled that they can't do basic functions of life, there may be, you know, there's an argument to have. This is not that case. I mean, she's smarter than 80% of the people I interact with on a daily basis.
And they're taking parenting classes, and his parents are around, and they have help, and the people are aware of them. I will tell you, I feel like adopting their children and building a house next to mine and giving them the house, and we would be the adoptive parents, but we would be right next to them, and they could keep I mean, that's what families are supposed to do, not state. That's what the family is supposed to do. You have your child live close enough to where the grandparents help. You don't just take the children away. And again, the state found no evidence of neglect.
And it's important to note, too, IQ is one of those things that has been beaten into our heads for decades and decades and decades as this actual measure of intelligence that it has some level of accuracy to it. There's no you cannot decipher. These are not accurate enough measures to decipher the difference between someone who has a 72 and a 78 IQ. Listen, this is from a Canadian university, Dr. Adrian Owen. Did a huge study, the largest study ever on IQ and the accuracy of it. He was the senior investigator in the Canadian Excellent Research Chair in Cognitive Neuroscience and Imaging at the university's Brain and Mind Institute. When we looked at the data, the bottom line is the whole concept of IQ, or of you having a higher IQ than me, is a myth. There is no such thing as a single measure of IQ or a measure of general intelligence. And we're taking people's children away based on some random test they took on some day, some number that has no real basis in science anyway. And just the sniff test here. You listen to this woman speak, and blatantly she has the intelligence to raise children. How many people have you met in your life and you think, God, those people should not have children? This is not one of them. I mean, this is an absolute horror show, a complete outrage. And I mean, how have we not heard more about this story? How does she not have the help that she needs? I mean, look, you might look deeper into the story and find something that indicates something different. But I mean, so far we have not found it. And I think just on its face, you listen to that interview. If you heard that interview, I mean, there were times you could not tell the difference if it was the mother or the mentor speaking.
There was at least one time that happened. I wanted to ask who's speaking.
Yeah.
I could not tell the one who had their master's in, what did she say it was? and the one who just graduated from high school, the one whose kids are being taken away because they're not smart enough, and the one who has all the degrees and certificates to be hired and sent in by the state to do family counseling and observations. I mean, when you can't tell the difference between the two, there's a problem.
And do we live in a country in which the state decides whether they will allow you to have your children, or do we live in a country in which they are your children, and with only the most incredible exceptions and incredible circumstances would the state even consider stepping into a parent-child relationship? That is the country we're supposed to live in. I mean, I know Oregon's a lot different than other states, and maybe this wouldn't happen in other states. I don't know. But this is a complete outrage on its face.
So here's what I want to say to you.